self-worth is an issue that is not talked about nearly enough. It is a massive, massive problem in society.
Books will outlive you. It's what your grandchildren will read. Even if you die today, that book is part of your legacy. Trauma and what is traumatic is subjective, and now that word gets thrown around a lot because it's kind of a cool word. But the thing that we can't classify certain events as traumatizing or not, it's really how your body responds and what adaptation you create.
Understanding how lack of self-worth affects, and I'm going to go on a limb and say, damn near every single aspect of your life forever until you address it, understand it, and fix it.
What's going on, everyone? Sid Gordon here, the Sid Gordon Podcast, powered by Core Medical Group. And today we have Lauren Ungeldi and Tyler Gray on discussing Forged in Chaos, which is a book that I can tell you will blow your mind. It's for all ages from 18 to 90 that want to understand really why they've done and gone in the directions they have in life that they may or may not be so proud of. So guys, take advantage of this podcast, but more important, take advantage of getting a copy of this book. And guys, thanks for coming on. Tyler, thanks so much for coming on. And I appreciate you guys for you coming halfway across the world, and you driving up from the Keys back to Boca.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Yeah,
Thanks for having us.
And dude, I'm like really excited about what's sitting in front of us. We have the author here, and I've had the pleasure to work with the last 2 days, and everything you said about her is pretty spot on, which is not uncommon for you, whether it's good or bad. You're pretty spot on.
That's true.
And then obviously, Tyler's story, and I kind of really wanted to get started off, kind of talking about your dynamic. Like, for me, a situation doesn't have to be 100% perfect if a dynamic is really like in place, and marriage, you know what I'm saying? If you guys have good dynamic and like that communication, it doesn't have to be that perfect. And like even with a business partner, right? And this is like a huge thing that you guys have done together, and it's going to impact so many people, right? How do you feel like your dynamic has worked in the past? Because I know this isn't the first time you've worked together, and why is it so important to you?
I mean, for me, I've been, working on this book for, I always say about 15 years. It's been a long, between, working on the ideas for it and writing stuff. And as she knows, I had a bunch of writings that go back, a long time ago. And so I knew that I had something there. I had a lot of ideas, a lot of concepts, and I just couldn't, it was just hard to find. For me, I'm so scattered in the way I think that I really was like, man, I need organization.
For that.
Yeah. I was like, I need organization and I need structure. I need someone to be able to sort out the kind of the chaos internally.
So we have that in common.
Yeah, exactly.
It's brilliant chaos.
In a way.
It's brilliant chaos.
And so, I freaking need to find
we need to find out
doggone post.
Yeah, why we connect with social media.
There was a post on Instagram. I don't even remember what the hell it was.
Ago?
We're
talking about 2 years.
2.5, 2.5 years-ish. And there was a post on Instagram, and I think it was like promoting another book she had done. I can't remember. For whatever reason, and again, I don't have a great explanation for why, but I remember seeing the post, and I just was like, it was like a military book, and I was like, something in me said, reach out to her. I don't know what it was.
Did you read the book first, or
no? Literally, it was, and that's the thing. That's my point. It was a post with no context, really. For some reason, in my head, I was like, "You should reach out to her." It's like that voice. Do it, right? It was like the Kermit the Frog meme. It's like
that's your inner voice. Your inner child is Kermit the Frog.
It's dark Kermit the Frog. And so
good to know.
I sent her. I slid into her DMs. It's like, hey, I have a book idea. Let's talk.
He's like, yeah, I've never heard that before.
Sure you do. Thanks. Sure you do. Right. And so. And
well,
so
the good news is your pedigree is pretty, available,
yeah,
and which is crazy.
It's not like one of these
attracted to that that type of story. So it's like, it's kind of wild.
Well, well, I mean, she can tell you, but we talked. I'll just tell you my side briefly. I sent her a message. She's like, yeah, let's get on the phone. We got on the phone, and no kidding, within 30 seconds, literally was that fast. 30 seconds of talking to her, I was like, I want to work with her, and it wasn't the reason I thought that so quickly was her level of instantaneous understanding complex ideas, I guess, for lack of a better way to explain it, was just so innate in her, and her ability to then take those things and then jump to the next step without more explanation. I was there was not a single doubt in my mind that she was the right choice.
I mean, from my side of it, I've had the opportunity to get to work with, a handful of different people from different backgrounds. I've written 13 books now. I guess yours was number 12 or 13. I don't remember.
I think you're right.
Some, military-based books, or, ones, people who've gone through something significant. I wrote the story for the woman on the cover of Time magazine, the young Afghan girl from 2010. And so, it's interesting because when you said dynamic is important, it is. When you embark on the journey to write with someone, it is a long endeavor, as he can vouch for. It takes a lot of time. It's a significant, to write a good book, a significant investment. And there's different types of writers out there. There's some who's like, hey, tell me your story, then I'm going to dictate it in really good grammar, right? I'm just going to clean it up and nicely say what you want to say, grammatically correct. But for me, it's really about listening to someone and architecting what it is they're trying to say to the world and crafting a literary voice for them. And actually, it's a huge responsibility because books will outlive you. It's what your grandchildren will read. It's what, even if you die today, that book is part of your legacy. And I don't take that lightly when I work with somebody. What you want to say to the world. And people have different purposes for books. Sometimes it is to launch a business or a platform or share a really interesting idea with the world. And so there's certain things that I actually, at this point in my career, I kind of look for when I want to collaborate with somebody. And one of them is incredible self-awareness and self-honesty. If you're not honest with yourself, if you are still wearing a mask in life and you're going to try and write a book based on a persona you've tried to be for the world, it's very difficult to write a very honest, true story. And I love to write books that serve a purpose, that are relatable, that are someone who's gone through adversity and made it out the other side, books that inspire hope. Like, that's what gives me the ability to wake up at 5 a.m. and write for 8 hours on end. It's when I know that book will do some good in the world. And so I had written I'd worked with, Navy SEAL, Green Beret, and different branches of, military, written some different types of books. But when I got on the phone with Tyler, he was very unique. And
I could have told you that.
Yeah, in many ways. and he's talking
the word is neurodivergent. Okay. That's
You're
how
right.
you.
I call him an unconventional thinker because he is really, he started talking. When he gets talking, it's like a tidal wave. And it's
I haven't experienced that.
This way, this way, this way, this way. And you got to start
best.
connecting the dots to see where it's going. But again, within 30 seconds, I understood that he's trying to say he's talking a million miles an hour. And he's talking about this meets this, meets this, meets this. And all of a sudden I was like, what he's describing right now is that so many of the stories and things that I've seen, he's actually putting words to the fact that there is really an archetype for warriors that has really not been explored or looked into before. And so that fascinated me. And yeah, I think our dynamic after that was very collaborative, really good. What I appreciate about him is he's very, very willing to be fully honest about the good and the bad. And his ability to be very vulnerable about all aspects of his life and really put it out there. And I worked with people, and you put things in the book, by the time it comes to publishing, they cut out a lot of parts to clean it up before it goes public. And this is normal. This often happens. He didn't pull out anything. He said, I want people to really see the real truth. And that I appreciate, because that really makes for good storytelling, but also something impactful.
I said to you yesterday that there's ways that I kind of vet new relationships. We were talking, and a great example of like so Tyler came to my event and with AJ, and I was super busy, running around, and then he was, everyone was like all over him too, and I like felt horrible because I didn't even get to like say hello to him at the event. Like I didn't even get to meet him at the event. Then after I called AJ, I was like, dude, do you think Tyler would mind if I called him and had a chat with him? And like the first time we spoke on the phone, we just like we talked for like 2 hours.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It was
believe it.
wild.
And then I mean, I went through a workout, a sauna, a cold plunge. I swear to you,
I've been there.
Yeah. But it wasn't just one sided. It was back and forth, and he was explaining the whole book dynamic to me. But one thing that was super impactful to me is like I stay very aware of like what my rules are to like really open, as we spoke about the other day about like what I'm looking for in like a friend or a strategic partner or someone to mentor me. And like instantly he like covered every single base. It was like I'm like just that vulnerability, that like trust in having a conversation, that the whole 9 yards. And to have somebody that's been screwed over, to have somebody that's been in really tough situations, to still have that faith in other men is like a big achievement, right? It's like, because a lot of people, they turn the other way. They're just like, fuck this, I trust nobody. I want like, and it's so much easier to do that, right? So, I mean, that just is a testament about how good this book is going to be, because like pretty much a stranger, other than the fact that he got to kind of vet me through that event, which tells a lot about like the character of Core and what I try to promote. And I'm not afraid of like celebrating that, right? Because it's a big deal. It was wide open. So that's when he started getting into the book and telling me the stuff in the book and talking about the hormones. I was like, dude, this guy fucking knows a shitload about a lot. It was awesome.
Yeah.
So when you guys were going through this book and putting it together, like what was like the one or two things that were just like, this is like the driver, like this is like what I really need to, because I know there's a lot in here, right? Yeah. What was like the one thing, if one person, and I can answer this.
Yeah.
If one person walked away with one thing that they need to work on with themselves, or one thing that they like should really pay close attention to, what would it be?
I'm gonna let you go first on that one.
Damn it. I was just about to
I'm gonna buy
defer to you and
time.
you beat
like,
me to it.
when you say you order first at the restaurant.
Yeah, I mean, God, well, let me just say this, because I'll be the first to say it changed over time. We kind of started with look, we started with several things, but as we kept going, I mean, we literally talked every day for 3 to 5 hours for a year. Yeah. Like no joke.
Took a lot of development time.
Yeah, 3 to 5 hours.
I won't feel bad bothering you.
Yeah, thanks,
3 to 5
Tyler.
hours every day for a year, and again, the more we dug, the more we uncovered. And
I like to say we're like detectives, like with the red dots connecting this between identity and nervous system and childhood and warrior archetypes and society and how it's changed over time and society to war dichotomy. I mean, like so many factors.
I'm going to just say this for what I think is and it's not the bedrock necessarily, but it's, if anything is taken away, in my opinion, I think it should be that I think that self-worth is an issue that is not talked about nearly enough. I think it is a massive, massive problem in society. I think it is, in my opinion, one of the core problems in the veteran and first responder community. And so for me, the most important concept in this book is understanding how lack of self-worth affects, and I'm going to go on a limb and say, damn near every single aspect of your life forever until you address it, understand it, and fix it.
I've never, ever, ever in my entire life, until I met Tyler, thought about that ever. It's been like either I was like a victim, right? I played the victim role. I don't know if you can relate to that ever, but like
no, never.
Or I got dealt a bad set of cards, even. You know what I mean? Or
the way I explain that too is So there's a victim of a person. And then what you just said, the bad cards, luck, is really, the way I explain it is, it's still victimhood, except you're a victim to the universe. But it's the same. It's the same ultimate thing. Yeah.
And then you get to a point to where like, you start to get some confidence back, but it's not consistent confidence, right? It's like you start to feel. As you get older and if you start to make some better choices, and then you realize, I'm not a victim, right? But that doesn't solve the problem. The self-worth problem is still there. I just realized how much it's still there for me. Yeah. I've been really focused on it, and I've been using it a lot to address situations with in and outside of work, inside my home, because if you really dissect that problem,
and explain self-sabotage.
I was just going to say the exact same thing. You understand why you sabotage so much shit. It's wild to me. So when you were writing this book, right? For the people out there, what is the, I don't want to say angle, but what is the journey that you saw? Like, because I have a funny idea. I know how your brain works. You think, and then all of a sudden it just like kind of comes to you.
And by the way, that think with Tyler, it was 6 months I spent interviewing him and immersing myself in his life before I wrote anything.
Not a word.
And that may sound like a long time. And I don't always take that amount of time with books I write, because some people are like, I really need a book in 4 months. And like, I can do that for you, no problem. But if you give me time to really,
you're not the person I would hire for that.
For a 4-month book?
No, I don't think I would, because I just feel like it would be, I'm sure you could still do it and it'd be amazing, but I just feel like you let
me do my thing.
So detailed.
Take my time with it. I'm patient with it. And so it's really listening. And there were some really interesting factors. So I'll just, make it clear how the book is laid out. The first part, which I would say about 2/3 of the book, is storytelling. And I wanted that storytelling to be present tense, and I don't want me to sound like all authory, but that just means instead of saying like, I went into the room, it says like, and said, I did this, I did that. It's, I am going into the room. I look to my left, I see this. So it's all happening in the moment. Very hard to write this way. Why? Because you can't use any hindsight. You can't use any bit of, I'm going to look back and paint rose-colored glasses over what happened. You are constricted to the thoughts that you're thinking at the time.
You're in the moment.
We did this intentionally. We say to the reader in the beginning, you're going to have times inside his head and you're going to say like, he's an asshole. And he says, you know what? I was at the time. You're going to say, I have fears. I have self-doubts. You're going to hear him negative self-talk. And we're making you see it and go through the entire process of aha with him in the moment inside his head.
Or lack of aha.
Or lack of
years and years.
Yeah, exactly.
But to that, I want to say that, and again, that was her idea. Present tense was her idea. As soon as she told me, I was like, done, sold, I'm on it.
Yeah.
But what she just said is so critical. There is no hindsight in the story because it's told in present tense. So you're lost with me. And I think, personally, I think that's the most important.
You're lost with me.
I think that's the most important aspect of the book, because if it was hindsight,
I don't know if anyone wants to get lost with me.
But
Lost with Sidney.
That sounds dangerous.
It's like a reality TV show.
Yeah. Lost with Sidney.
With Sidney.
If I ever do a book, we can name it that.
Okay,
Lost with Sidney. But it's like, if it was written in, as a child then it's like all the lessons are there.
Yeah.
All the awareness is there. And I say this all the time, not really in the book, but more when I talk. I can explain the core root issues now. I can explain the interrelatability of all of them. I can explain it all pretty easily now. And people go, wow, that makes so much sense, blah, blah, blah. And I go, but let me be clear. I know this now, and it's easy for me to look back and see the patterns and the template and all that stuff. But for decades, not years, decades, I didn't know what I didn't know. So I was
Which
lost.
makes it relatable, because so you're seeing him. And first of all, it is, I think interesting to see combat in present tense. It's very fast paced, and when you see a mission going down and you're actually following him as it's happening, it's very beat by beat, extremely fast. We've got you immersed in his mind, but it's not just combat we cover. I mean, there's a significant, love relationship, and we really cover sex, romance, addiction, all of the aspects of life in this book. And I haven't seen a lot of books that, focus on warriors, actually focus on the relational aspect, which is incredibly important. And he was really willing to open up. That's a vulnerable thing to do, to open up.
Probably because they don't want to open up.
Yeah. I mean, and I told him, I was like, you're willing to go there, but it created this ability to actually see so many aspects of things. And then the last third of the book is then where we really go and we take all the correlations together, and we really get into the archetype of a warrior, the childhood of warriors, and how this thing, and this, you asked me, what's the one thing? He said self-worth, so I won't say that, but I'll answer your question now. For me, what's really interesting is that, I'd heard a lot about PTSD, and it focuses on event-based diagnosis. This event took place. 3 months later, you can be diagnosed with PTSD. And that does happen, to people who've been through significant events. When Tyler and I started talking, he started putting words to the fact that there is this array of much broader things that warriors are dealing with. And a lot of it is environmental conditioning, neurological rewiring to not just feel comfortable and calm in chaos, but to actually need it and depend on it. And he put words to the fact that so many warriors, they're not, I think civilians think that when you get into these moments, you're panicked and feeling fight and flight and you're, sweating. He's like, no, we turn on. That's when I can think the best. And in the chaos, I love it. I need it. I want it. He said, and when I didn't have the chaos out here in my environment, it went inside my head. And when we started looking at it, then we start talking to doctors.
Do you feel like you create it then when you
Oh yeah, that's forged in chaos. And so we start talking to doctors. We realize this is neurological. You actually create new nerve growth factor. You all kinds of stuff is going into creating this. So when you take this warrior that's adapted for this environment, then you put them into, sit on your lazy boy and order your Whopper cheeseburger next to your family in suburban America. It's like an alien on a planet without an oxygen that breathes a different oxygen. And so I think we have really maybe we haven't known how to have a really good conversation around chaos addiction, around actually, and he coined the term, and I'll let you explain, what term that you coined, LTSD, lack of traumatic stress disorder. When you actually experience withdrawal symptoms because you're adapted for high stress environment, and when you move to an environment that's lower stress, you actually internalize it. And so that fascinated me so much to get to unpack, and we get into identity, the fractured identity. We get into lack of traumatic stress disorder. We get into all of this. And then he went one step further, which was, you think that all this is being created in, training and all this kind of stuff. He's like, mine went all the way back to my childhood. And that's when my brain just went, phew. So understanding that there was a much more full spectrum of what warriors were facing, I would say for me was the biggest aha moment of the entire book, and what made it very different than anything I'd ever worked on.
Add on to that for me.
Yeah, so I came up with the concept of LTSD, and I detail where I just thought this is really funny.
What?
We always joke about PTSD being event-based, and I just realized that
yours is event-based.
LTSD is event-based off of one event, or it was really one triggered event, I should say.
Wouldn't it be like multiple events?
Well, his aha moment.
My aha moment. So the if you Back to the Future, when he slipped and had the image of the flux capacitor, I had an event.
I like that reference.
Yeah, I'll always reference movies. And so I had. Well, so I'll start this way. I went to the VA and a bunch of therapists in whatever it was, 2009, whatever, I forget, and everyone was like, PTSD, you got PTSD, or TBI. Sometimes they threw in an extra 3 letters. Oh, awesome, thank you. And so it's like, your whole problem is PTSD and or TBI. And I'm like, okay, what does that mean? They explain it, and I go, no. I disagree. And you know, I watched Rachel's podcast earlier, and she said it. The doctors were saying something to her, and there was something internal in her that was like, I don't think that's it. You know what I mean? And she, on the podcast, was like, I don't know what it was. I think I do know what it was. It didn't fit. Subconsciously, you're like, this just doesn't fit right. It has flaws, right? If you look at, and I'm not comparing myself to Einstein right now, but if you look at Einstein and
Might be.
Or are you?
well, Einstein and the theory of relativity. So the reason how Einstein came up with relativity is the predominant theory at the time had flaws. It had things that didn't fit. And the other scientists at the time were like, it's fine, blah, blah, blah. And Einstein was like, no. If it was true, it would fit perfectly by all the measures that are obvious to us. And it didn't. And so he worked on it in his mind. And my point being is it just didn't, there was flaws with it. And so I knew there was an underlying issue. And then an event happened and it just hit me like a ton of bricks. And I went, oh my God, I don't have post-traumatic stress disorder. And one of the key problems I have with post-traumatic stress disorder is that post-traumatic stress disorder assumes a pre-traumatic stress baseline. And for years, I had come up with LTSD, but I thought it came, as she said, in training or in the military. I thought it started then. And then when I was in Warrior's Heart, another aha moment for me was when I was in rehab with a bunch of warriors, and every single one of us had not exact, but pretty much the same childhood pattern, which was a chaotic childhood. And when that
all of the people surrounding me on a daily basis have
dude, and when that connected,
Yeah.
when that hit me, I was like, oh my God, it didn't start in the military. It started then.
Not setting your baseline as a kid.
So the baseline, I never had a pre-traumatic stress baseline. I literally, she knows this.
born into the world like with that in place.
I am not exaggerating right now when I say that I wet my bed every night until I was a teenager. Legitimately. Sometimes I did worse than pee my bed. That's a longer story. But my point being is that is how much...
I'll use my imagination.
that is how much...
I know you
That
well
could go
enough.
a couple ways, actually.
well, it's in the book.
It's probably in the book.
That's how much fear I had every single night. That was and again, it was just this massive, the fear was in response to the chaos and the uncertainty. And so when I put the childhood component together, I realized that that's the template. That is the mold by which we are cast. Because once we've been forged in chaos, that becomes our homeostasis. It becomes our default state. So lack of traumatic stress disorder is when you don't have a pre-traumatic stress baseline. When traumatic stress is your baseline, then that is your normal. So when the environment is chaotic, you're calm. And the reason is in childhood, your brain rewires itself to normalize and survive in that environment. And it works. But the long-term effect is once chaos is your homeostasis, then calm becomes uncomfortable.
It's an enemy.
And the way you create calm in your mind is by creating chaos in the environment.
What would you say to somebody that has like a beautiful childhood and everything's like rainbows and butterflies?
Good for you, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know anybody that's had a perfect childhood, but I know people that have had. I had the most amazing family, this, that, and the other, and then they choose the path of the military. They're a pro athlete. They're a CEO, but then they end up in a position like similar. Would you call that PTSD?
Well, so first of all, I'll say that I've talked to many people that will start with what you just said. And I'll go, I think, I'll talk about their childhood. And they'll go, no, doesn't apply to me. I had a perfect, picturesque childhood. My parents were together, loved me, and all these different things. And I'll go, okay, all right. And then I'll start asking some questions. And I think without exception, I can't think of an exception offhand, but without exception, once I dig enough, I will find chaos. And and we're using the term chaos, not trauma. And the reason we're using the term chaos is because you don't know what your childhood was like as an adult. So I'll give you an example. I was talking to somebody, he had all of the forged in chaos patterns, right? And he's like, oh no, my childhood was great. My parents, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, no, there's something here. And I was like, wait a minute. Did you move a lot as a kid by chance? Oh yeah, we moved every 6 months. My dad was in the, boom, there you go. And I was like, look, I'm sure your parents loved you. I'm sure your parents were amazing, but you have to understand that moving every 6 months as a kid, that is chaotic. That is right down the chaotic checklist.
And I'll add to that too, which is I think that trauma and what is traumatic is subjective. And now that word gets thrown around a lot because it's kind of a cool word, you know, and everyone says like, oh, that was so traumatizing. Oh, that was so traumatizing, you know. But the thing that we can't classify certain events as traumatizing or not, it's really how your body responds and what adaptation you create. That you know. What I've noticed, there's actually a close friend of his that I would say fits the type you're talking about with a really good upbringing and hasn't shown some of the patterns here. The biggest difference is identity. I would say that when the identity and self-worth is not shaken by events, that typically means you had a strong childhood baseline. But if you deal with any type of feeling like a fractured identity, I don't know if I'm good or bad, I have that sense of self-doubt, the self-esteem issues that go along with it, you know, that's typically indicative of when your beliefs about yourself. That's what trauma or chaos does as a child. It affects what you believe about yourself. And so if you're someone who it can easily be in calm environments, it's easy for you to relax and be calm. Your nervous system, you know, can calm very easily. You don't deal with any type of identity or self-belief issues, then I think that would be indicative of someone at a strong baseline. But if the opposite's true, it typically means that even if you don't classify the childhood as negative, there's probably something there.
Yeah, there's two things I want to touch on because I actually agree with you. Like I was just challenging so that the audience out there can relate. And the first thing is like I am like big on protecting people, and I have my whole life from bullying because I've seen people turn introvert at a very young age and never come off that path from being bullied. Yeah. And they can have a great household, but then they go to school and they're bullied so bad that they're just petrified of even saying a word about it, right? And then all of a sudden they go from this person that like is coming into the world, maybe elementary school, junior high, and then they hit their senior year, and all of a sudden their growth slows down tremendously because they're just afraid all the time of what people think, right? I've never talked about this before, but we had you've been in my house, you've met my wife, you probably know a lot more about me in the past two to 3 days than 90% of the people in my life from the time we spent together. I'd say that we have a pretty strong household. I feel like my wife stays in her lane, I stay in mine. My kids know I'm proud of them. They know I love them. I can tell you that sometimes, unfortunately we went through it. That trauma doesn't have to be, direct, parent to child. We had a nanny that was in my daughter's life, went from a month after she was born, because Jax was in school. She was amazing. From Texas, small town, came here, gave her a great opportunity. We took great care of her. She was with my daughter till she was 4 years old, and then we get a text message one night. She quit. She's never coming back.
Wow.
And just abandoned my daughter. It's my daughter's best friend, loved her to death, the whole 9 yards. She met some guy who had a lot of money, knew who I was like, oh, you're not going to work for him. I have, this, that, and the other, blah, bblah, blah, blah, blah. And my daughter was fucking devastated. Now, whenever I leave, or my
abandonment issues
mom,
now.
her mom goes anywhere for more than 2 or 3 days, she'll say to the other one, is Daddy or Mommy ever coming back?
Ugh.
Right? So now we're in this thing about like at night, just talking to her about it like constantly about like, listen, everyone doesn't do that. Like you have to understand, because she's petrified. She still is. Yeah. For the first week we dropped her off at school. She's like, are you guys going to be there to pick me up? And like that's at 4 years old.
Such a deep insecurity, yeah.
So like I think parents need to look past just themselves it's never going to be perfect. And I think in years to come, it's still going to be this pretty much the same way. But like, what are you guys doing to address it? Are you analyzing really what's going on when you get older and what's happened to you in your past, and really taking that honestly, like, into your heart and be like, yeah, I'm fucked up. You know what I mean? Like,
how did that shape my identity? Like, what if your daughter were to, create a belief set that I wasn't worthy of love? And as kids, we do this. We think that it rained because I wish that it rained. I thought a bad thought about my friend. That's why he fell on the playground. But kids think, there's kind of this like innocent narcissism that kids have, that they think the world revolves around them at a young age. And that's normal. But what can happen in those defining events is that it can make you believe something about yourself. That's the part that I would say takes it from just, adversity and tough things, which can actually build incredible resilience. Like I'm a big one on, even for my own kids, it's like, I'm not trying to actually protect you fully from the world. I want to give you, the ability to withstand some, safe adversity while you're under my roof to build resilience. But the trauma aspect can come in when it causes a new belief system, a new identity. I am unlovable. I feel rejected. I am not worthy of someone staying in my life. And that stuff can stick with us. And that's something we talked about a lot, is actually the dismantling of the belief system, the looking at the networks of beliefs created by early childhood experiences. And it's a lot of what we're doing in the business that we're launching, is how to actually dismantle that belief network, how to look at identity in early childhood experiences.
I'm going to go on a limb and
all right.
say,
When he prefaces, that means.
but I'm pretty confident in this. I'm going to go on a limb and say, and I'm going to make up a number, but I would say, 80, the 80-20 rule. I love that concept.
Yeah, I do it all the
works,
time.
dude, it works so well. So therefore, I'm going to use 80% of issues, in adult life are actually based on childhood paradigms that were never accurate because they were developed in the eyes of a child. And, I can give, 1,000 examples offhand of people I know and the issues they're currently having. And if you know their past objectively outside, it's so easy to go, oh, they're doing that because blank, and it's in their childhood.
A lot of people don't want to admit it.
No, I don't. I just don't think they see.
Maybe they underestimate the significance of it.
I don't think people connect it. And again, I can say I didn't for myself. Once I started, I knew, I was messing certain things up. But once I really looked at what I was doing, and then I looked at what I was currently doing through the lens of my childhood, I was like, holy crap, every single thing that I'm doing that I don't want to do in my life, every single one, 10 out of 10, all of them were based on my childhood paradigm of, whatever the belief was that was developed. And I'll be the first to say, it is freaking frustrating to a level that is shocking. When you really see, oh my God, that was based on this. Let me give you an example. I would do something for years, and I still have to fight this. It's just so inherent in my behavior, but I will feel this subconscious need to make other people, I'll over explain something, or I'll give information that I don't need to give. And now I know what it is. I'm trying to make them go, oh, he's smart. He knows what he's talking about. He's, whatever it is. And I've done that my whole life, and I never really understood
Overqualify.
it. No, it's that, but it's like this compulsion to convince them that I know what I'm talking about. Let me give you an example. It happened yesterday. I was at,
I'm working really hard on not doing this, but it
happened yesterday.
No,
I love the honesty.
It literally happened 3 times yesterday, which was kind of a lot in a day, to be honest.
Yeah.
But we went
twice.
my fiance and I. Oh, I can call her a fiance now. All right. Okay.
Right.
So thank you. My fiance and I yesterday go to go to, well, it was in between lunch and dinner. And we go to this restaurant. I open up the menu and I look at the menu. There's not a single breakfast item on the menu. There's sandwiches, nothing breakfast. Not that I wanted breakfast, but I just looked at the menu. And so then the woman comes
excited
up.
to see where this is going.
No, the waitress comes up and she goes, "Oh, you have the breakfast menu. Let me give you the dinner menu, or let me give you the other menu." And I go, "No, that wasn't the breakfast menu." And she goes, "Yes, it is." And I was like, "No, it's not." You know what I mean? I'm like, "It wasn't the breakfast menu." And then she's like, no, that one doesn't have, whatever she said. And I was like, in my head going, "It's not the freaking breakfast menu." And my fiance is like, "Don't argue with her about it. Like, who gives a shit?"
She really shouldn't be arguing with you because you're kind of paying.
Well, but the point was, my girlfriend's like, "Why are you guys?
Customer's always right.
Why is this a debate? Like, let's go sit down." My point being is, we go sit down. She gives me another menu. I open it up, and now there's no sandwiches in there, and it's all dinner stuff. So then I'm like, okay, it wasn't the breakfast menu. It was the lunch menu, and she gave us the dinner menu. And that's fine.
Yeah.
But damn it, I freaking told you it wasn't the breakfast menu, right?
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where, and it happened 2 other times yesterday, which was just weird, where I was saying something, and my point being is, I have this fundamental, I've had it my whole life, where if I will just keep going until they admit that I'm right, and I have this fundamental need to be right. Why? Okay. It wasn't until I was in rehab, and we're going through this. Now think of what right is. What is being right? It's kind of like, oh, that person's right, that person's smart. Like, it's an intelligence factor, being wrong, or value, or a win. Exactly. But for me, I think I associated it with, if I was wrong, that was what intelligence was. Are you right or wrong? And so, and I love debating, as she knows. I'll debate anything. Sometimes even when I know I'm wrong, just because it's fun, right?
Yeah,
the heck of it.
I'm kind of guilty of that.
Yeah.
I was like, you have the ability to make people feel wrong when they're right. Like, that's
a skill set. That's a skill set.
It's fun. And so,
I stopped doing that.
Yeah.
Yesterday,
I still do it sometimes. So basically, we start going through my past, and she starts talking about negative core beliefs, which we talk about in the book. And I'm like, negative core beliefs? What's that? Like, I literally had no idea. And then she goes, well, it's things that you believe about yourself that are negative. And I'm like, interesting concept. And then they had like a list of them, and I started going through them. No. Dude, this was, we didn't even go in detail in the book in it, but like when we start reading them, I don't know, there was a list of, let's say, like 40, I don't know. I'm not exaggerating. Of the 40, 35 of them, I was like, yep. And one in particular, and then she goes, okay, now take those beliefs, those sentences, that represent beliefs, now figure out where they started. And this took weeks, by the way. I really had to think. But the one in particular is, and I forget what it said, I think it was, I'm not smart or something like that. Ultimately, it came down to a teacher in the 2nd grade who was what could only be described legitimately as a handwriting Nazi. I mean, this woman was cursive handwriting. That's all she cared about. I don't care. You could be freaking, Rain Man.
Do they even use cursive anymore?
No, I don't think so.
No.
I don't think
Which, by the way,
writing by hand anymore.
I never learned it, so
dude, it was like you could.
I don't even think they're using pens anymore.
Yeah, you could be like a beautiful mind, math smart. She wouldn't care at all. It was all about handwriting, and I sucked then, suck now at cursive writing. And so she would tell me that I was stupid because I couldn't write cursive. And I mean, she was shockingly savage, at
back in the day,
time.
the teachers
It was
could
back
be
in the 80s. Yeah, I thought she was like a million years old, but she was like the wicked witch of either the East or the West, I forget. And so
Bakersfield.
What I didn't realize was like, that is where
well, that's
all of the entire basis of that I was stupid was formed by this 2nd grade teacher because I couldn't write cursive pretty. And and then look at how many behaviors that were not things that were good or that I wanted to do affected me throughout the rest of my life, all because of a fundamental lie to begin with.
Yeah.
I always say
But I didn't-
kids' minds are like wet cement.
Yeah.
And if you press an imprint into wet cement, it hardens that way. It becomes much more difficult to change it. Whereas when you're an adult and you have a strong, firm baseline, something can hit you, but it won't create an actual part forming who you are. But I mean, formative years, there's a reason we call them formative years,
Yeah.
Yeah,
is
it's-
because, you know, but as adults, I don't think we take time to really excavate our own belief. I had to do it for myself too, and really had to look at so many things that, you know, had been created, and you know, the lens, it creates the lens through which you see the entire world, intuit things going on around you and the decisions you make. And
And let me say it this way. I don't know if I've described it this way, but I have this conversation all the time about, to me, the fundamental problem with the world is that all of us are operating on completely different perceptions of reality. So your reality is different than my reality. And people are like, oh no, there's subjective reality. No, there isn't. There isn't, because we're incapable of perceiving it. The reality is we perceive everything through our paradigms and the way we think the world works. And everyone's is different. And yet everyone thinks that theirs is the way reality is. But it is not. And so that's the conflict to me in the world.
Yeah.
And the whole point on that is that reality is shaped in childhood. And let's be honest, it's shaped at a time where it's definitively wrong, because no child is accurately or more accurately perceiving reality. And so I would argue for the vast majority of people, their perception of themselves and how they fit in the world is fundamentally based on a relative naive perception of it.
So going through the book, I understand the format, right? How much solution would you say you guys provided?
so that actually was something that when we first wrote the book, we wrote a lot of story. Then there was a lot of, I would say, diagnosis and exploration of understanding that the things that warriors deal with, you could take veterans, first responders, or anyone with a warrior archetype, is so much broader. You know, it's not that PTSD doesn't exist. It does exist, but there's a lot more going on with the mind, the body, and the nervous system. And we get into all of these factors, and we've talked a lot about them. So we actually, we let a handful, maybe 5 people read it. And they were like, look, we journeyed with you for a long time through the problem. Please give us more solution. We want more solution. We went back to the drawing board, added a couple months onto the writing time, actually. But there's a whole chapter called War Plan for Life. And War Plan for Life, it's concise, but it does give enough handle to say, and he described to me, you know, I don't have his, you know, strategic thinking and military background, obviously. But I was really fascinated with the way that he explained how to look at strategy and technique and how to put together things to actually form a strategy for life and how to gain victory. And so that would be an answer in the book. But I will say this, Tyler and I, and you already know our other business partner, I mean, we're launching an entire work and business, and this has been all we've worked on since the book's been done for a while. Publishing takes a while, for months now, and actually developing an entire new approach, you know, in the business we're doing, New Bio, that does deal with mind, body, and nervous system all together. We'll have an app that takes you through identity work, perspective work, while simultaneously treating the nervous system and that environmental rewiring for chaos while treating functional medicine. So it is full spectrum, and there's a lot more on that. We won't get into it here. So we kind of figured—
That'll be 2 podcasts from now.
Yeah, we'll be 2 podcasts. So to say, yes, there is tons of solution in the book, but we're kind of devoting really our lives now to full solution, because we don't want to just, and he told me this, and I respect the hell out of him for saying it. He goes, I do not want to create another book for awareness. He goes, we have enough awareness, and despite all of the awareness we've had for PTSD and suicide prevention, he said, we continue to see it climb, which means that whatever actions we're taking haven't hacked it yet. And so he said, I want solution. So we get into hormones. We talk about his story through that. We get into a lot of things in the book, but then a lot more to come on that.
I think the big, or one of the big things is, you know, we do talk about solutions, and the business that we're creating is going to provide structure.
Yeah.
Because it would be very difficult in the book to provide a full level of interactive structure.
Yeah.
So there's solutions,
Well,
but
everyone's different too, right?
Yes,
so you
of
can't
course.
really provide you can't give a
You don't want to too
solution
narrowly apply.
to that fits everybody's needs. But through that new outline of business structure that I saw, it seems like you guys might be able to hammer down pretty hard on that.
well, if you look at the military or first responder organizations, the military makes you absolutely dependent on structure.
Yeah.
I mean, it literally provides structure for everything. There's a task, condition, and a standard for everything. And I equate the military, not that I've been to prison, but I think they're very similar in the fact that they make you institutionalized to a degree. The military requires you to do everything through its system. No matter what you want to do, I don't care if it's the hardest, course in the military, you still know what the task can. Well, you don't always know what the standard is, but you know what the path to try, right?
I was actually going to say, are you sure?
Yeah.
I'm not even in the military.
But they'll provide you with at least the structure and how to get to that point,
Yeah.
or the steps. And then one day they go, have a good one. And then that structure is gone, absolutely gone. And you're like, well, wait a minute. I literally had to request to take a weekend off to do a trip, so it's like they make you dependent on that structure and then they pull the rug out. So I think it's really important. And what I've found myself, I operate very well within structure. As soon as there is no structure, if somebody gives me the structure, I'll be great in it, but I'm not capable of creating it.
Yeah.
It's just not the way my brain, but again, people go, oh yeah, I'm the same way. Why? Well, simple. Once you've been forged in chaos, chaos is literally the opposite of structure.
Yeah.
So if you are forged in chaos, you are not capable of creating structure because it's the antithesis of what you're designed for. And so you could operate within it, but you can't create it yourself. And that's something very important that I recognize the need, and I want to, for us to be able to provide some level of structure.
So when's the book come out?
A week from, July 15th. A week from tomorrow.
July 15th.
Yeah, July 15th.
And you're doing a launch in New York?
Yep.
Well, I'm going to cut this podcast to the front of the line then.
We appreciate it. Expedite. We'll look at the
Guys,
editor.
just so you guys are aware,
Have an all-nighter.
we're going to be, Core Medical is going to be buying 20 of these books, and I happen to know a guy and a gal that will actually sign them for you, but we're going to be putting on a little competition. It's the person that shares this post the most that's going to be going out and promotes this book. And you'll be getting a free copy of the book, and it will be personally signed that Core will be purchasing for you. Our goal is going to be to promote this enough to sell at least 2,000 books for Tyler and Lauren. So that's my push, and I know we have the manpower and the dedication of our amazing patients and staff members to help do that.
You guys are great. Thank you for
I'm excited for you. And
Yeah, let me throw out one last thing, just kind of to your point is, we definitely started the book with veteran-centric in mind because, that was my background. And then as we kept going, then it was like, oh, wait a minute, this archetype, this template, this mold is much bigger than veterans. And then we're like, oh, first responders fall right into this. And then we were there for months, right? And then we kept going and they're like, wait a minute, this is much bigger than that. And then we got to the point where this fits anyone with this childhood baseline. This childhood chaotic baseline fits, anyone who grew up that way.
Yeah.
And, whether it's, professional athletes, CEOs, entrepreneurs, I'm looking at you, but, all it's a much bigger group of people. And the whole point I want to make is, when you look at everything, I say warrior. What is a warrior? It's not a uniform. It's not a job. It is a inherent mentality of when pushed, you will push back. Mm-hmm. No matter what happens to you, you're resilient and you will turn it into something good. And so therefore, this is really written for warriors, and warrior encompasses anyone that really has that inherent character. And so it's we all have so much more. People that have this, baseline have so much in common, despite jobs or anything else. There's way more similarities between our lives than differences in our jobs.
The other thing too, before we close out, is from this conversation, I picked something up. I mean, if you're a younger man, a younger girl, and you're this podcast resonated, or if you're a parent and it might resonate for your kids, like, don't wait till they're in their 20s or 30s to read the thing. Like,
Absolutely.
Get ahead of it. Being tough just makes the beating last longer.
Yeah. And I intentionally wrote it, to his point too, to not just be only, it will definitely appeal to warriors because it's got action and combat and all the good stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, there is love stories, there's real life. And I made it to be really something that's pretty much any type of reader will like and enjoy the journey of it, not just, those from a traditional uniform-based warrior profession.
Guys, thank you so much.
No, thank you for
you.
having us.
You
Yeah.
guys are both amazing people.
Thank you for having us.
So grateful you guys came and hung out with me for a couple of days, and I got to have you guys on again, and we're gonna push the hell out of this thing for you.
Oh, awesome! Yeah,
Thanks so much.
I hope it'll, I hope people dig it, and I hope it leads to, some. I hope they learn from my mistakes, that they don't make the same ones in their own life. Yeah.
And the fact that you're so upfront and honest, I don't think that's even a question.
Yeah.
So, hats off to you, man, for finding that humility and trying to help others. Thanks,
Yeah.
guys.
No,
Yep,
my
thank you.
pleasure. Thanks, man.
Appreciate it.